I want to tell you about a pattern I see in almost every organization I work with. A high performer, one of the best people in the team, consistently excellent, always delivers, never complains. And then one day, they're gone, resign, or still physically present but clearly somewhere else mentally. And the manager is shocked. I never saw it coming. They seemed fine. They were not fine. They had not been fine for months, but they had been performing, and performance can mask almost anything, including the slow erosion of a person. This is the burnout blind spot, and leaders who cannot see it keep losing their best people to it. Burnout is one of the most misunderstood phenomena in modern organizational life. Most leaders think of burnout as a personal problem, someone who cannot handle the pressure, someone who needs to manage their time better, someone who should exercise more or sleep more or worry less. This understanding is not just unhelpful, it is raw. Burnout is not a personal failing, it is an organizational mismatch between the demands placed on a person and the resources available to meet them. When that mismatch is sustained over time, without relief, without support, without acknowledgement, burnout is not a possible outcome. It is an inevitable one. The World Health Organization defines burnout as a syndrome resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. Three dimensions: exhaustion, increasing mental distance from the job, and reduced professional efficacy. Note what is missing from the definition: any mention of personal weakness, any suggestion that the solution is individual. Burnout is a systems problem that organizations consistently treat as a personal one. And because they treat it as personal, they look for the solution in the individual. Wellness apps, yoga sessions, mental health days, none of which address the conditions that created the burnout. Three things leaders do differently to prevent burnout. First, notice the early signals, not the late ones. By the time burnout is visible, by the time the person is exhausted, withdrawn, and clearly struggling, significant damage has already been done. The intervention at that stage is expensive and often too late to prevent loss. The early signals are different from the late ones, and leaders who know what to look for can intervene months earlier. Early signals: a person who was engaged and curious becoming procedural, work being completed without the investment that used to accompany it, small errors appearing in work that was previously careful, a gradual withdrawal from voluntary contributions, the ideas in meetings, the enthusiasm for new projects, the willingness to help beyond the role. These are not signs of disengagement. They are the early warning signals of a system under sustained strain. A person beginning to conserve resources because the demand is exceeding what they have available. Leaders who notice these signs and ask, not in a performance management way, but in a genuinely curious, human way, intervene before the damage compounds. Second, address workload as a leadership responsibility, not a personal one. The default response when a high performer shows signs of strain is to encourage them to manage better, prioritize more effectively, say no more often, protect their boundaries. This advice is not wrong, but it is incomplete. And when given without any accompanying adjustment to the actual demands being placed on that person, it is also a deflection. Workload is a leadership decision. Every additional priority that is added to a person's plate is a decision made by their manager. explicitly or implicitly. Every deadline that is not challenged, every request that is escalated as urgent, every expectation that is added without anything being removed. Leaders who prevent burnout in their teams treat workload as something they are responsible for managing, not something they delegate to individuals to cope with on their own. They actively remove barriers. They challenge unnecessary urgency. They make explicit decisions about what is most important when everything feels urgent. And they create the explicit permission for people to not do things, which is often more valuable than any productivity advice. Third, create recovery in the rhythm, not just in the holiday. Most organizations think about recovery as vacation. People recover on annual leave and return replenished. This model is insufficient for sustained high performance. Recovery cannot be accumulated in 2 weeks per year and drawn on for other 50. Leaders who prevent burnout in the teams build recovery into the work rhythm itself. Meetings that end 5 minutes early rather than running over, weeks of lower intensity after intensive periods, explicit protected time that is genuinely protected rather than theoretically available. Normalizing not responding to messages outside working hours by not sending them outside working hours. These are not large changes, they are small, consistent signals that recovery is valued as part of performance, not in opposition to it. And over time, those signals change the relationship a team has with sustainable high performance. I spoke with a manager who had lost 3 high performers in 18 months. Each time he was surprised. Each time they had seemed fine. When I asked him to describe each person in the months before they left, the pattern was clear in retrospect. Each of them had gradually become more procedural, more withdrawn from optional contributions, more careful and less creative in their work. He had noticed these changes. He had attributed them to personality, to life circumstances, to phases. He had not attributed them to a systematic signal about the conditions of their work. When I asked about the workload context for each person, the picture was clear. Each of them had been given additional responsibilities over the preceding year without any corresponding removal of existing ones. Each had been high performers, which meant they were consistently given more without ever being given less. They had been rewarded for excellence with increasing demand, and no one had asked at any point whether the demand was sustainable. We built a workload review process for his team, an explicit quarterly conversation about what was on each person's plate, what was genuinely priority, what could be removed or delayed, what support was needed. He has not lost a team member in the 14 months since. Here is your challenge this week. Think about your highest performers, the people you rely on most. When did you last ask them not how the work is going, but how they are going? And when did you last actively remove something from their plate rather than add to it? Tell me in the comments, has anyone ever caught your burnout early enough to help? What did they do? CHROs, DM me burnout and let us talk about prevention as a leadership practice. I'm Bikash Kalita. See you next week.